a peacemaker and wanted to try to calm things down, really. I mean, remember that this was the last engagement before Prince Archie was born. It was the last engagement before their household split between Harry and Meghan's and William and Catherine's. So it really shows her intention to try to mend fences between them. And this was another event that emphasised that Harry and Meghan would be on the second row behind William and Catherine. And look at Meghan there, seated next to Prince Andrew. Looking back, she'd probably think that is a reflection of the status she was given. Wow, I remember this set of photos from the time. And now I look back on them, they're even worse than I thought then. Now, these pictures were taken at a polo match. It was a charity polo match that William and Harry were both playing in. It was a few months after the birth of baby Archie.
Okay, I'm listening. You have my attention.
It's at the Guards Club in Windsor Great Park. And I think the idea at the time was to, it was seen as a bit of an opportunity to show how Catherine and Meghan were friendly and were getting on. But
that doesn't make sense.
My goodness, when you look at it, the body language was just terrible. The whole set of photographs that I saw, there's no interaction whatsoever between the two women. I mean, Meghan is clutching baby Archie to a chest, almost as a sort of shield. Catherine is looking in a different direction the entire time, keeping an eye on her own children, no doubt. But even though the pictures were taken over the course of,
Hey, y'all, come look at this.
Quite a period, there's no engagement between the women at all. And it's worth remembering the context of the photograph as well, that by this time, the two households had split.
Are you serious?
They'd moved in their different directions, and they were setting up their separate courts, essentially. Remember that in the royal family, their job is to make small talk. It's to be able to interact with
that doesn't make sense.
anyone, any member of public. They always have something nice to say. But here you've got them in private at this event with clearly nothing to say to each other. It's a photograph that really does speak volumes.
Fact.
According to the book Finding Freedom, which takes a very pro-Sussexer stance, this event was an example of the cordial but distant rapport between Meghan and Catherine, and how the women hadn't become friends. To me, even cordial seems a bit too optimistic.
Stop it. Get some help.
The complete set of photos has none where the pair are looking at each other. It seemed like a day to forget all round, as even Harry, who loves playing polo, looked annoyed as he, Meghan and Archie walked away.
What?
In July 2019, Catherine very magnanimously extended the invitation again to Meghan to join her at the tennis. But this year she brought her sister Pippa along, perhaps as a buffer.
So that was a lie.
Remember, this is Catherine's favourite event of the year. But once again, her body language suggests that it's anything but. She's stiff and uncomfortable as she arrives, as though this is purely duty, not pleasure.
Okay.
And you can only wonder if that's the prospect of spending the day with someone who makes her feel uncomfortable. Look at the expression on Catherine's face. She looks very strained, and she's really, gripping her handbag as if it's some sort of shield to protect her. It does not look like a relaxed afternoon enjoying the tennis at all, but very much like an engagement that she has to carry out because it's her duty.
Fact.
We're back at the Commonwealth Day service, this time in 2020, and it seems that the royals have largely given up on trying to pretend that all is well. We haven't seen any pictures of the couples together since the previous November at the Remembrance Day events at the Cenotaph. Other than a strained hello when they arrived, there isn't really any interaction between William and Catherine and Harry and Meghan at this event. We can see how Prince Edward and his wife Sophie, were almost acting as a buffer between the two couples.
Are you serious?
Here we have Edward and Sophie, chatting in a friendly way to William and Catherine in front of them, but Harry and Meghan again seated on the row behind. Look very uncomfortable. They're not engaging at all. And my goodness, look at that stiff expression on Meghan's face. It's as if, You know, she's got that stiff jaw. She's sort of thinking, I've got to get through this.
Boring.
And Harry sort of giving her concerned glances. You know, are you okay, Meghan? It seems like it really was a day that they just wanted to grin and bear. Harry and Meghan have been to Africa and Canada as they start to explore the possibility of life outside the royal family. So you might remember there'd been a real row about the order of service before the event, that it had been written and printed and there was no mention of Harry and Meghan at all in the Queen's procession. And in order to diffuse the row, Prince William agreed that he and Catherine wouldn't take part in that procession either. Robert Lacey writes in his book Battle of the Brothers, when Harry heard that he and Meghan were to be so graphically shunted aside
Hey, y'all, come look at this.
on this final appearance, he was furious. The subservience of a spare, one of the basic reasons for this very sad parting of the ways, could not have been more strikingly illustrated. In Finding Freedom, it confirms that Harry and Meghan were disappointed. The decision had been made without their consultation, and they were informed long after the 2,000 orders of service had been printed for guests, with their names notably absent. This year it would be just the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, the Prince of Wales and the Duchess of Cornwall walking through the Abbey with the monarch. It felt intentional. A source close to the Sussexes was also reported in the book saying it should have been the one public moment where the royal family put their arms around the couple for a show of support. They purposefully chose not to put them in the procession and not to be welcoming. It was most unpleasant. Some might argue it was a little rich of the Sussexes to complain of unpleasantness. After all, you know, they were the ones who'd announced
Hey, y'all, come look at this.
that they were quitting royal duties. In their Netflix documentary, Harry and Meghan confirmed that this was the first time that they had seen the other members of the royal family since the news was announced that they were leaving. Harry confirmed that,
Hey, y'all, come look at this.
I felt really distant from the rest of my family, which was interesting because so much of how they operate is about what it looks like rather than what it feels like, he continued. And it looked cold, but it also felt cold. Remarkably, it took the death of Queen Elizabeth more than 2 years later before we saw Catherine and Meghan photographed next to each other again. They say that absence makes the heart grow fonder. If anything, it's the opposite here.
Fact.
They would have seen each other, but not spoken at the incredibly awkward Jubilee service for the Queen, where Harry questioned the seating plan, which seemed, many would say understandably, to relegate them to the less senior members of the royal family.
What?
Here, as the world mourned the death of the Queen, William and Harry's wives came out to support them as they met well-wishers. Given that the brothers were born royal, you might have expected them to be on the outside, nearest the crowd.
That doesn't make sense.
Plus, knowing that the brothers had fallen out so spectacularly, you might have thought that it would be the wives who were next to each other. But the opposite is true. The brothers share a couple of words, but Catherine wants to be physically separate from Meghan.
You serious?
At the first opportunity, the two couples split to go and talk to different sections of the crowd, where some even booed the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Robert Jobson revealed in his book Our King that despite the show of unity and the hint of reconciliation
So that was a lie.
that it gave to optimistic royal watchers, this was just an illusion. He said the occasion was very difficult for a visibly uncomfortable Meghan. He also revealed that it was worse for Catherine. Catherine later admitted to a senior royal that such was the ill feeling between the two couples, the joint walkabout was one of the hardest things she'd ever had to do. Shortly after this meeting, the pair would be seen together for the last time in years at the funeral of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. This was a huge global event with the world's cameras on the family. At such a moving event, you would expect somber expressions,
Fact.
and you wouldn't expect much interaction anyway. But the body language is striking. Camilla, the new queen, is in between them. Kate simultaneously keeping her family close and away from their Aunt Meghan. But
Okay.
the body language is striking. Remember, these last two events, the walkabout and the funeral, both took place before Harry's hugely controversial book Spare was published.
Fact.
If it was difficult for the parties to be seen together then, you suspect that sadly any sort of reunion would be impossible now. You can make up your own minds as to who caused the rift or who made who cry over the bridesmaids' outfits.
What is he doing?
So that was a lie.
But I'll leave you with this thought. Meghan has a history of fractured relationships. Friends, family members and employees cast aside when things go wrong. Catherine, by contrast, has remained close to her family. Her friend
You serious?
group has remained very similar, while former staff members remain extremely loyal. Take from that what you will, but it's worth remembering that it must have taken a huge provocation for anyone to fall out in this way. Hope you enjoyed this look back at an extraordinary time in recent royal history. A reminder to subscribe to the Daily Mail Royals channel for more great royal videos like this and Palace Confidential. I'll see you next time on Reading the Royals.